Modern measures of success are all too often rooted in affluence, fame, or fortune. While Paula Dietz found none of those in her life, the native Kansan did become a devoted bookkeeper and started a beautiful family. She was married for 34 years before discovering that her husband Dennis Rader was a sadistic serial killer. Before we start, can we get this video to 1,000 likes? Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Everything Dietz thought she had known shattered into 1,000 pieces when her husband was arrested on Feb. 25, 2005. The man who was once the loving father of her children and president of their church council was suddenly exposed by authorities as the BTK killer who bound, tortured, and killed 10 people between 1974 and 1991. The cognitive whiplash experienced by Dennis Rader's wife was surely indescribable. She had fallen in love with the United States Air Force veteran in 1970 and married him within months. Settling into their home in Park City, Kansas, Dietz tended to their 2 children, while Rader worked as an electrical technician. Dietz had no idea that he used his skills with electricity to break into homes at night and murder innocent people while veiled with a mask. Despite a roster of clues left in her husband's wake, Dietz only discovered Rader's true identity when he was caught. Paula Dietz was born on May 5, 1948, in Park City, Kansas. Most of what is known about her only became public in wake of her husband's arrest, as she lived a rather quiet life with her family until the BTK killer was exposed for his crimes. According to Briefly, however, Dietz was raised in a religious household by devout parents. Her father was an engineer, while her mother worked as a librarian. After graduating from her local high school in 1966, Paula Dietz attended the National American University of Wichita and graduated with a bachelor's degree in accounting in 1970. That same year, she met Rader at church, and the two quickly fell in love. On the outside, Rader was a kind U.S. Air Force veteran. But according to Encyclopedia Britannica, Rader had grown up killing small animals and fantasizing about torturing helpless women, and Dietz had no idea that side of him existed. Dietz became Dennis Rader's wife on May 22, 1971, without knowing he liked to photograph himself while wearing women's underwear or indulge in autoerotic asphyxiation. Paula Dietz was overjoyed in 1973 when she found out she was pregnant, and she gave birth to her and Rader's son Brian on Knob. 30. Just 6 weeks later, her husband would commit his first murders. On Jan 15, 1974, he broke into the home of 38-year-old Joseph Otero and his wife Julie and strangled them in front of their children. He then dragged 11-year-old Josephine and her 9-year-old brother Joseph into the basement. He suffocated young Joseph, then hanged Josephine and masturbated as she died. Before fleeing, Rader snapped lurid photographs of the scene, which he kept in a lockbox he would fill with mementos of his victims, including Josephine's underwear. Over the next 17 years, Rader killed 6 more women while playing the part of the ideal family man by day. Dietz gave birth to another child, this time a girl named Carrie, in 1978. Rader loved to take his children fishing, and he even led his son's Cub Scout troop. All the while, Dietz was oblivious to her husband's secret double life. According to the Lawrence Journal World, she once found a poem he'd written entitled Shirley Locks. The poem read, "Thou shalt not scream, but lay on cushion and think of me and death." However, Rader was attending college course at the time, and he told his wife it was simply a draft he'd written for one of his classes. In reality, it was about the murder of his 6th victim, 26-year-old Shirley Vian. Because of Rader's excuse, Dietz thought nothing of the poem, nor did she think twice when her husband started marking newspaper articles on the BTK killer with cryptic notes. Even when she noticed that his spelling was just as horrid as that in the BTK killer's publicized letters, she merely joked, "You spell just like BTK." The FBI found these macabre mementos when they raided Rader's home following his arrest on Feb. 25, 2005. Dietz was completely blindsided. According to The Independent, she told police her husband was a good man, a great father. He would never hurt anyone. But after he confessed and pled guilty to the 10 murders on June 27, 2005, Dennis Rader's wife cut all contact with him. She never wrote him another letter, nor did she visit him in prison or attend any of his court hearings. In fact, Dietz filed for an emergency divorce on July 26, 2005, citing emotional stress. The court granted the divorce the same day, waiving the usual 60-day waiting period. Less than a month later, Rader was sentenced to 10 life sentences, with a minimum of 175 years in prison. According to the Seattle Times, Dietz sold the family home at auction for $90,000, left town, and hasn't been seen by the general public since. The now adult daughter of Dennis Rader and Paula Dietz, Carrie Rawson, published a memoir in 2019 entitled A Serial Killer's Daughter: My Story of Faith, Love, and Overcoming. In an interview about the book, she told Slate magazine, "My mother has sort of dealt with my dad like he died on the day he was arrested. As far as I understand, she has PTSD from the events around his arrest." Police don't believe Dietz had any idea she was the wife of the BTK killer. Tim Ralph, one of the detectives who helped capture Rader, explained, "Paula is a good and decent person. She's been downplayed by some people as some sort of ignorant Christian person. But her only mistake in life was to care for Dennis Rader."